every person who is charged with a criminal offense is entitled to defend himself in person or by a legal practitioner of his own choice.
Remember that an individual is entitled to remain silent.
Every citizen in Nigeria is entitled to maintain a private life.
You are approaching a military checkpoint or a police checkpoint without knowing that it's against or it offends them and subject you to a frog jump. That is wrong.
Hello out there, you are welcome to another fresh episode of the program Justify Nigeria on ACNN television, reaching you from Abuja. On today's episode, our discourse and focus will be on the legal concept of pardon. My name is Anozechi Nomso. Pardon, simply put, is the forgiveness of a grave offense after conviction, which is granted to a specified person. Pardon is one of the constitutional safeguards in determining a fair trial. That is why Section 36, subsection 10 of the 1999 Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, specifically provides that, and I quote, "No person who shows that he had been pardoned for a criminal offense can again be tried for that offense." Unquote. The questions that may arise from all of this are, number one, what actually is the legal concept of pardon? Number two, when and how can one raise a plea of pardon? Number three, is the plea of pardon the same with the plea of atrocious acquit or convict? What exactly can we make out of all this? With me in the studio to discuss all this is Barrister Ojomo Bolaji. He's a leadership, clarity coach, and personal development trainer, former president of Law Students Association, University of Abuja, and overall best student at the mock trial of the Nigerian Law School. He won the Best Orator Award by the Council of Legal Education, and also the principal partner of Chitsu Law Firm Consult here in Abuja. You are welcome to the program, Barrister.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Now we talk about pardon, and oftentimes a layman will not understand what it is. Based on legal perspective and to the understanding of our viewers, what is pardon?
Pardon in a very simple layman way
Yeah.
is the forgiveness of one's offense or sins, as you may call it.
Okay.
It is when one is given a complete or partial forgiveness by an authority, constituted authority. But in this instance, or under the law, certain people have that exclusive power to grant pardon. So it's not everyone that just can grant pardon. And in this context, it is when someone has been convicted of a crime or an offense.
Okay, you don't just grant pardon to an innocent person.
No, you can't grant pardon.
Okay.
On what basis? Just like the law says, ex nihilo in fit. You can't put something on nothing and expect it to
it
stand.
will definitely collapse.
Yes, exactly.
Definitely.
So for you to grant pardon to someone must have committed an offense, has been charged to courts, prosecuted, found guilty, and convicted of the crime. Before
Please take it again. Someone must
have been arrested,
okay,
arraigned in courts,
okay,
prosecuted,
right,
found to be guilty,
okay,
and convicted by the court before he can be qualified for a pardon.
So you must be a convicted person.
Yes, you must be a convicted
before
person.
we now talk about that's why
Before
you started by saying that it's forgiveness of sin to
sins.
layman's
Yes,
understanding.
yes.
There must be a sin that you must have committed based on that pardon can now
Exactly.
come in.
Yes.
Now, based on the explanation, now when and how can one raise a plea of pardon?
All right,
What are the
so-
circumstances? Because you just said that the issue of convicting somebody.
Yes.
So when?
Okay.
What are the campaign scenario
All right.
for better understanding?
All right, so since we are talking lawyer, let's raise some provisions of the law.
That's right.
Section 175 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, states that the president has the prerogative power, which they call prerogative of mercy, to grant pardon to anyone that has committed an offense or has been convicted of committing an offense, rather. And then Section 212 of the Constitution grants him power to the governor.
So we have two people now,
Yes,
the
two
president
yes.
and the governor.
Exactly.
Go ahead, sir.
Now, also, you also have in Section 312 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act that gives the courts the power to also recommend to the president or governor,
As the case may
as
be.
the case may be. In this instance, since ACJA governs the federation, we'll just stick to the president in that instance to recommend to him to grant mercy to someone that they feel should be given that opportunity. So now, in answering your question, a plea of pardon can be granted in two instances. One, the person that has been convicted of the crime can make an application to the Attorney General of the Federation, because the Attorney General of the Federation is the Minister of Justice. Representing the President, or the Attorney General of the state, as it may be.
As the Commissioner of Justice.
Yes, Commissioner of Justice in his state. Applying through an application letter, seeking for pardon, citing the provisions of the Constitution. And it is discretionary. It's not something that the President or Governor is mandated to do.
It's on his own. That's what they call prerogative.
Yes,
it's
prerogative
on his own.
of mercy is at his discretion.
So he can even reject.
He can reject it. He can reject it. So it is at it's the clear prerogative and discretion of the president or governor to assent or to consider this application. However, the Constitution also provides that it should also be in consultation with the Council of the States. So the Council of the State, when you have applied for pardon, the president is to consult with the Council of the State, which is made up of the Attorney General.
I was about asking you, yes, who are that Council of State? Who make it up? What is
so
it?
you have the Attorney General of the Federation. You have certain members appointed by, even recommended by the Attorney General. With senior lawyers, you have you have SCNs. You have even some chief judges of the states, various states. Yes, they constitute that panel, Council of the State. So they would look at the recommendations and the application, and then consider, because the granting of this pardon is also passes through the funnel of certain considerations or certain things. One is that it must be for the overall good of the states.
Sure.
It must be in consideration of public safety and order, because you don't want to grant pardon to a serial killer. Because you are now going to be putting another criminal in the society that might endanger the lives of citizens. So these are things. So the president does not know this person. He's going to look at the track record. What has been, is this person a consistent offender? From the because they will look at the records of proceedings. From records of proceedings, evidences are adduced. What were the things that the judge gleaned from the case that would advise him whether this is, because sometimes in most considerations they give pardons to first-time offenders, people that might have not even intended. In crime, you look at two integral elements to constitute to see if someone is convicted of murder, if someone is a convict of murder, he has committed murder. One is actus reus, and the other is mens rea. That means you must have had the intention to kill or commit harm, and then you actually committed the harm. So in the consideration of this, you look at all these elements to see, does this person have the consistent pattern of behavior to keep doing this, or was it a mistake, or was it something that came upon him that just a sad event? Sometimes somebody can be, in practice, I've seen over time, people can just be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
That's right. And immediately,
yes, those kind of things
before
happen.
You just say Jack Robinson, you are arrested.
Exactly. So these are all the things that the president or governor will consider in the application. Like I told you also in ACJA, the judge, sometimes after the person has been convicted, there is what we call allocutors. Yes. So the person can plead allocutors that, my lord, I am a first-time offender.
Please, what's that allocutor, so that our viewers where we're educated? What's that allocutors?
Allocutors is a plea made after conviction by the counsel or the person that has been convicted, seeking for a kind of mitigation of the sentence passed by the judge. So, for example, if a judge passes a sentence of 20 years imprisonment, a person can say, my lord, please, okay, I admit all the things, all the ingredients and all me was proved, but I am a first-time offender. I am the breadwinner of my family. If I am sentenced for this long, nobody to take care of my family. I am not, from the case, you can see I'm not a violent person. Sadly, this and this happened. My lord, use your good office to make considerations to see if my sentence can be mitigated. Now, also, the judge will look at certain, because if it's a high-brow capital offense, there are sometimes that the hands of the judges are tied. So it's not in every instance they can grant allocutors. For example, someone that is convicted of terrorism,
banditry,
serial kidnapping. Those are kind of things.
Serial raping.
The Do you understand? So all these kind of things are things that they might be very hard. But maybe it's a murder, and the ingredients of the murder in the course of the case, they could see that it was more of provocation and certain things that led to it. The judge can consider and look at it and say, okay, based on this, rather than give you 20 years, I'll give you 10 years.
That's allocutus.
That's allocutus. Now, in pleading this allocutus, why I brought this in is that the judge might look and say, okay, maybe a death sentence has been passed and the judge's hands are tied. He can't even grant you allocutus. The judge can say, well, I can't do anything. But then based on section 312 of the ACJA, he can make a recommendation to the Attorney General of the Federation stating, I sat on this case, I presided over it, but in my opinion, my hands are tied as a judge, I can't do anything. I must, this is the law, because the judge can only work based on the ambient of the law, you know. So based on this, he can say, okay, I'm recommending to you, Attorney General of the Federation, to look at this and see if any pardon can be granted to this person. It might be a partial pardon, because mind you, we have various types of pardon.
You are going to continue on that. It's very interesting.
Yes,
It's
yes.
very, very interesting.
Yes.
But you're going to continue on that various types of pardon when
Yeah.
we come back from break.
All right.
Please, viewers, do join us again. Hi, you are welcome to the speaker on ACNN television, reaching you from Abuja. On today's edition, we are going to be looking at the sentence or phrase that says, vaccinated Nigeria or vaccinated Nigeria. My name is Anozie Chinomso. The word vaccine, simply put, is any preparation used to render an organism immune to some disease, either by inducing or increasing the natural immunity mechanisms. In other words, vaccine is meant to cure or sustain life and not to destroy life. On the other hand, vaccine is not an English word, but was formulated by introducing the prefix VA to the word sin, S-I-N. In other words, any word that may originate from sin, such as vaccine, is destructive and deadly. With the kind of unthinkable and unfathomable things going on in Nigeria, I'm persuaded to ask on whether our country is a vaccinated Nigeria or vaccinated Nigeria. How can it be that the leaders in Nigeria do not think and think again before undertaking any action? How can it be that our country, Nigeria, do not have faith on herself? Can it be that we have not yet exercised the ghost of low self-esteem? It can only be because we are living in a vaccinated Nigeria instead of a vaccinated Nigeria. I was shocked to my bone marrows when it was celebrated and televised in almost all the television stations precisely on March 2, 2021, that 3.94 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine were imported and shipped into Nigeria via COVAX facility, a partnership between CEPI, GAVI, UNICEF, and World Health Organization. What a vaccinated Nigeria. Despite the questionable efficacy of this COVID-19 vaccine, despite the available facts that this COVID-19 vaccine may be dangerous to health, in spite of the negative stories surrounding the same COVID-19 vaccine, Nigerian government still went ahead to import this same vaccine. It can only happen in a vaccinated Nigeria. Looking at all this, I have certain questions to ask Muhammadu Buhari, who is the president of Nigeria, and Boss Mustafa, the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. If one gets vaccinated, can it stop that individual from wearing masks? If all Nigerians are vaccinated, will people get back to their normal lives without observing COVID-19 protocols? If I get vaccinated, will I be resistant to COVID-19? If I get vaccinated, will I get contagious to others? If I get vaccinated, at least I can protect 100% of people I come in contact with. If I get vaccinated, can I stop social distancing? If one experiences a severe adverse reaction, that has a long-term effects or probably dies from the vaccine, will himself or family be compensated if one is vaccinated? Does it mean that he will not contact COVID-19 ever again? All these pertinent questions have no as an answer to all of them. The question now is, of what purpose and benefit did Nigeria import this joke called COVID-19 vaccine? Is Nigeria really a banana republic? It's high time Nigeria began to reason positively and stand firm against evil. It used to be said that man should think outside the box, but I'm saying no. We Nigerians should think without the box, because we do not know who brought this box in the first place that we are being told to think outside of it. It used to be said that man should hit the iron until it is hot, but I'm saying no. We Nigeria must hit the iron until it becomes hot. In other words, I'm saying that we Nigerians must begin to do things differently, which will definitely produce a positive and desired results. I took time and listened to Dr. Nevers Mumba, who was former and 8th Vice President of Zambia, on this issue of COVID-19 vaccine. And I was thrilled, elated, and satisfied. According to some of the parts of his speech, he said, and I quote, "No injection should be inserted into a body of any Zambian. We must declare that the vaccine is unsafe until it is scientifically proved to be safe, not by the Americans, not by the Russians, not by the Europeans, but declared safe by our own scientists and doctors." End of quotes. How I wish our political leaders in Nigeria will borrow a leaf from Dr. Nevers Mumba. Is it not a shame that we have dockets of ministries of health and doctors, and yet Nigeria can produce vaccine herself? Is it not a shameful thing that despite the whole resources we have, Nigeria cannot build a well-standardized hospitals and laboratories and equip same with the basic materials and qualified, experienced, and certified health and medical personnel? This can only happen in a vaccinated Nigeria and not a vaccinated Nigeria. I therefore speak. Until the leaders of this country rise up to the occasion of doing a positive thinking and rational reasoning and ask certain fundamental questions and stop misplacing priorities and have a patriotic mindset of putting Nigerians first before their personal idiosyncrasy, and quickly have a rethink of this whole thing of imported COVID-19 vaccine, we shall continue to have a vaccinated Nigeria instead of a vaccinated Nigeria. My name is Anozie Chinomso. I just want to speak. Hi viewers, glad to know that you are still there with us. We are still here in the studio with Barrister Ojo Mobology. My brother, thank you very much for still being with us. And before we went for break, we are trying to educate our viewers types of pardon.
Yes.
Please, can you just start from there and now throw more enlightenment?
All right.
On that?
So we have different types of pardon. We have a total pardon. They call it, that's the one we know about, where all your sins are forgiven. And then the person comes
You speak like a pastor and you said to a lawyer, all your sins are forgiven.
Yes.
That's right.
And then you return to a novus homo. That means you're a new man. Exactly. Okay. Then we have definite remission, where in this instance, just an aspect of your crimes are forgiven. So maybe, for example, you committed kidnapping, and they said it was death sentence. They can pardon you for death sentence and give you 15 years rather. So instead of giving instead of a person dying, there is hope, because when there is life, there is hope.
Okay, that's pardon, but it's another type of pardon.
Yes.
Okay.
So they don't, rather than kill the person, they waive the death sentence and then give the person some years.
Yes.
That after completion, the person is free to go.
Okay.
Then there are also instances where they have substituted pardon, where rather than maybe spend time in prison, they might give you some mandatory activities like community service and all those other things.
It's also a type of pardon.
It's a type of pardon. So they can say, okay, instead of you being locked up in prison, for this period, do community service of this kind. Maybe be educating. If they will look at your skill and say, oh, based on this, okay, serve your community with this skill, or do this for the community or the society, so that people can also see that you're a brand new person, and in so doing, it's also rehabilitating you.
Okay.
So these are the various types of pardon.
But the first one you talked about is complete pardon.
A complete pardon.
But you know, you just
yes, exactly.
Okay.
It's waived. You are free to go instantly.
Okay.
And
now, Council, looking at the insurgents of the society now, and this issue of Boko Haram, bandits, and all that, can the president, because this is a federal offense, so to say, grant these people pardon, or because they have not been charged, just like you said, can he say, "I've granted you people pardon"?
Well, in that instance, you know, there are different categories of pardon. Mind you, the idea of pardon itself came way back from the Anglo-Saxon Empire, in the person of King Ini of England. In those days, what he did was that he would look at certain people that had committed an offense. I'll explain why I'm giving this illustration. And then based on that prerogative of his power, based on some certain things, most times for his own safety, to gain the goodwill of the people, and also for the safety of the community, grant pardon. Then William the Conqueror now codified it, which now became law and all that. But now looking at it now, based on evolution and all that of time and the law, pardon has now demystified itself into various branches, and one of them is what we call amnesty.
Okay.
I don't know if you understand where I'm going to now. So amnesty now is a type of pardon. But in this instance, amnesty is a pardon that is given before a person is even taken to court.
Like I remember during President Goodluck, those militants, that's why it's amnesty.
Even Yaradua too also did the same thing.
So their sins are forgiven.
Their sins are
the
forgiven.
only difference between amnesty and pardon is that amnesty comes before conviction. But pardon comes after conviction.
Yes.
But they are still the same thing.
They are still the same thing. It's just that there are different types and they are applied in different ways. But at the same time, it's still the exclusive prerogative and power of the president or governor. No other person has this power.
Not the other person.
Not even the Chief Justice of Nigeria. The best the Chief Justice of Nigeria can do is recommend.
And yes, of course, the president and governor may also reject the recommendation.
They can reject the recommendation.
What a power.
And once they reject it, if the person was on death sentence, they got to now state when they want the person to be executed, or if they want the person to be kept there in prison for life. For example, there are certain people that have a death sentence that have still been in prison for years. Yes, they don't know. They might one day just wake up and they go. Because before you can even execute that death sentence, the president or governor must assent to it.
Wow. Yes. Thank you very much for that. Yes. Now, oftentimes we see people in court. Yes. Also, they raise the plea of ultra-force convict or acquit.
Yes.
You know, you lawyers and you people are good in English. Our viewers, man, what is that ultra-force convict and acquit, number one? Okay. Is it the same thing with pardon?
All right. Thank you very much. So, ultra-force convicts and ultra-force acquit are of a different category, so to say. It's not really pardon. Ultra-voice convict is when a person has been convicted of a certain offense in the past, and then that offense is brought up again, and they are asking that they be convicted on same charge. It evokes it's a defense. You can bring it as to evoke the principle of avoiding double jeopardy. So where you're saying, I have been convicted, so maybe a person has been arrested for stealing, convicted for stealing and felony and all that, and then he's reprimanded to prison. He has done his prison time and be released. Then someone now brings it up tomorrow and say, I know you want to reconvict him again
on that same
matter.
He can now raise
it as a defense that I have been convicted, I have been found guilty, I have been convicted, I have done my time. Now, the principle of also ultra-voice acquit is also when a person has been taken to court and it has gone through the rigors of a case and then has been found to be guiltless, blameless, or at least maybe the charges were not being able to, they were not able to establish the charges, and the person was discharged and acquitted. Because there's a difference of being discharged alone.
And the difference between discharged and acquitted?
Yes.
Explain, please.
If you are discharged alone, it means that they have the power to bring up those charges again. That means maybe the prosecution was not able to gather enough sufficient evidence to establish his case. the court might, based on what is available before it discharge the case. Sometimes even the Attorney General himself can come under the principle of nolli prosequi to stop and just say, oh, you know what, I'm stopping this case here, or I'm discharging the person. That means the person cannot just walk away and say, I'm free. They can bring up that case later against you.
The same matter?
The same matter.
And you cannot raise ultra-false convict or acquitted?
No. But if the court pronounces you are discharged and acquitted, that means I have what the courts are saying in a layman's, because I'm trying to use as much layman term as I can, is that we have looked at the case, all the evidences needed have been adduced, and you have been found to be innocent. And based on this, you are a free man. So as long as this issue, this crime is stated, I mean this particular case, same ingredients are brought up, you cannot be convicted for it again.
So that's what it is.
So that's when you can now. So if someone now comes to and say, I know you were acquitted then, but we have, you can raise the defense of ultra-false acquit. Now, how ultra-false acquit and ultra-false convict comes into play in pardon is in an instance where you have been convicted of a crime, you have been sentenced to jail, and the president or governor pardons you. And then maybe someone comes and says, why are you still on the street, and takes you to court to convict you again. You can say, yes, I was convicted, but I was granted pardon. And based on that, like you say, I'm a novus homo. I am a new man. So it's as though I never committed the offense.
Thank you so much. But on its own, ultra-false acquit and convict is not the same thing with pardon.
No, it's
not the same thing as well. Now, counsel, before we go, just have a few minutes. Yes. What legal effect does pardon has on a convicted person?
Okay, so well, it has a couple of effects. For example, one of these, I'm sure you can see that there are certain ingredients for being able to run for certain offices and all that. One of it is maybe if you want to contest for the office of the president, one of the ingredients is that you must have not been convicted of a crime in the last maybe 10 years or thereabout. So what he's trying to say is that if in your record they see that you have once been a criminal convict, you can't contest. But what pardon does for you is that it wipes your slate.
You're just a new person.
You're a new person. So if someone goes in your records, you're no longer regarded as a convict.
So if somebody calls you a convicted person when you are being pardoned, you can sue the person for defamation?
Yes, for defamation.
Real?
Exactly. So it's like it clears the record. So for example, if you want to even apply for a business, own a company, someone can, or they want to make you a director of a company, someone cannot bring up the fact and say, oh, you were once a convict. It's not in my record. Because one of the ingredients of that can stop a person from being a director of a company is if the person has been convicted of any offense, criminal offense in the last 10 years. And you can see it play out in various nominations or positions that people want to vie for. So the power to grant pardon is very strong. It's very powerful because it wipes a person's slate. It gives them an opportunity to start fresh. It's just like, as believers say, the blood of Jesus that washes us away from all sins.
Thank you very much, counsel. In just half a minute, what's your advice to the viewers in case people, because this is a constitutional right, if they're being trampled on, but what's your advice to them? What are they supposed to do? So,
in this instance, what I would tell people is always be educated on your legal rights. Always have the instrumentality of a lawyer. It's very important in anything you are doing. And if you are arrested by the police, make sure if you are in a police custody do not make a statement until your lawyer is present. Insist on it. And if you cannot afford one, the state has provided you one under the legal aid councils. So you can ask for one, and they will bring a free lawyer to you to ensure that your rights are not trampled upon. And if you have been convicted of an offense before and you have been pardoned, and anybody is trying to bring that up against you and calling you a convict, you have the power to sue that person for defamation, because the person is trying to tarnish your image. Because once granted that pardon, you are free to exercise your rights as a human.
Once granted that pardon, you are free to exercise your rights as a free man. Barrister Bolaji, I want to appreciate you for coming. And I know when next we call you, oblige us to come.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. A cursory look and in-depth attention of our discussion reveals that the legal concept of pardon is a constitutional right. Suffice it to say that a plea of ultra-false acquit or convict is very different from the plea of pardon. In plea of ultra-false acquit or convict, the accused person is still saddled with all the legal disabilities of his conviction, while in plea of pardon, the accused person becomes a novus homo, which means a brand new man. It is noteworthy to state that the concept of pardon is impari material, that is the same thing with provisions of the Bible, in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 17, which says that if any man is in Christ, he is a new creation. All things has passed away, behold, all things have become new. One good thing about plea of pardon is that it is an act of grace by the appropriate authority which mitigates or obliterates the punishment the law demands on the offender and automatically restores the rights and privileges forfeited on account of the offense. This was the Court of Appeal decision in the celebrated case of Plea against Obasanjo number 2, 1999, 4 Nigerian Weekly Law Report, part 559, page 476 at 495. Always remember that it is the president that has the legal power to grant pardon on matters relating to federal offenses, even to the court-martial, while the governor does same on matters relating to state offenses. Viewers, this is where we draw the curtain on today's episode of Justify Nigeria. Join us same time, same station on another fresh episode of the program. Until then, this is Anoze Chinom, so wishing you the very best and bye for now. Every person who is charged with a criminal offense is entitled to defend himself in person or by a legal practitioner of his own choice.
Remember that an individual is entitled to remain silent.
Every citizen in Nigeria is entitled to maintain a private life.